And good morning. Actually, it's good afternoon now. It's just hit 12 o'clock. So I think we are going to go ahead and get started. I would love to welcome everyone and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Mary Claire Bierek, and I'm the president of the Rosslyn Business Improvement District. And so excited to bring this programming to you today. So today, our webinar is part of our Rossolutions series, which many of you know is our attempt to help the Rosslyn community as well as our own staff members, keep good, healthy resolutions for the year ahead. This is our second edition, and we're really excited to engage our neighbors in the last few weeks with topics like healthy eating, physical wellness, and then, of course, this current topic, which is so incredibly important, especially in our current environment, and that is mental wellness. Our Rossolution initiatives are going to come to a close next week, with the last topic being outdoor wellness. So we absolutely encourage you to check out our website and take advantage of the programming before it comes to an end. And even once that ends, we've got plenty of other things sort of on tap for you, which will be great. So for example, if you set a resolution to make more time to socialize with friends, which I know I did, we've got Rosslyn Rivals Trivia coming up, which this is, if you haven't played, it's really a lot of fun. And if you wanted to actually explore some new cultures, we're going to be celebrating the Lunar New Year. And we've got lots of great giveaways associated with that. And if you've got the goal to fall in love or celebrate your love, our Valentine's campaign is just around the corner, and we've got lots of great things planned. We've got speed dating, love letters, and more. So definitely encourage you to sign up for our e-blast and check out all of the programming. It's gonna be fun. So before we begin today, I want to do a couple housekeeping notes regarding our Zoom room today. You may have noticed that the cameras are disabled to the participants, and you can't see everyone who's online with us. And we've done this very intentionally because we want to give our attendees as much privacy as possible. And we really want to encourage you to ask the questions that are on your mind. And so giving you that privacy hopefully will encourage you to do that. We are recording this because we'd love to share this valuable information that Christy and Kristen have for us with others. However, again, it's fully anonymous, so your names are not associated with it. And any questions will be put through the chat, which only the panelists can see. And again, just encouraging you to do ask those questions. And to that end, we do have the chat and the Q&A features open for you to use. And so we're very excited for that. So all that said, very excited to get started. I now want to welcome our amazing partners from Rock Recovery for our chat today. Rock Recovery is a nonprofit based right here in Rosslyn that strives to eradicate mental health stigma and spread awareness around eating disorders through their amazing and transformational clinical treatment programs, as well as some really great community and faith-based resources that they've got. So we are just so thrilled that they are a part of our neighborhood, and we're excited that they're here with us today. We can't wait to hear what they have to say. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Christy and Kristen. And ladies, take it away.
Thanks so much, Mary Claire, for that wonderful introduction. And we apologize to all the attendees about how obnoxious our names are with Christy and Kristen. I know it's very confusing. Like Mary Claire said, we will be leaving time for Q&A today. We want to be sure that we answer your questions and just really have an open conversation about mental health because we believe that it's so important. And so feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A box. And we'll be leaving at least 20 minutes to go through that at the end of our chat today. So I am going to quickly share my screen so that we can get our presentation started. All right. And so, as I mentioned, we're really excited to be here, to be talking about mental health, to be talking about this thing that we're so passionate about. My name is Kristen Soto, and I am the Director of Community Partnerships at Rock Recovery. So I love getting the chance to connect with and engage with our different partners throughout the Arlington and DC community. And I'm here today with our wonderful Executive Director, Christy Dondero-Betwee. Mary Claire gave a wonderful overview of what we do. As she mentioned, we are a nonprofit. We are located in the Rosslyn community. And our mission as a nonprofit is to provide affordable and accessible eating disorder treatment to those who struggle. And so we have clinical therapy groups that we offer, as well as individual therapy services. And then we have faith-based support groups for those who want to integrate faith into the recovery process. In addition to that, we often go out into the community and speak on mental health and talk about eating disorders and the impact they have in our community as a way to eradicate stigma around mental health. So thank you for giving us this platform to chat with you guys today. So I'm going to start by making sure that everyone's paying attention, getting you all engaged. You can feel free to use the chat feature, but I want to just open this question up to you guys today. So what percentage of adults do you think in 2020 shared that they were struggling with at least one adverse mental health condition? And this is US adults. So drop your notes in the chat. I'll try to see if I can figure out how to access that. But what percentage of adults do you think shared that they were struggling with at least one adverse mental health issue in 2020? Okay, so I'm seeing some things come in. Let's see, we've got 85%, 50%, 89%, 70%. All right, so I will move on and reveal the answer. Thank you guys for your questions. So again, these are just reported numbers. So the statistic is actually, it's 41% of US adults in recent studies have reported at least one adverse mental health or behavioral health condition in 2020. Realistically, I believe those percentages are much higher and much closer to what you guys shared. Especially with this last year, we've really seen in the past couple of months with the pandemic, things come to light. People are struggling with mental health conditions. People are finally seeking help for the mental health conditions that they've been struggling for the last several years. And in the last 18 months, the numbers for anxiety and depression in adults have tripled to 4 in 10 in comparison to 1 in 10 with studies conducted in 2019. So this is a real issue. We've seen things come to light with the pandemic. People are talking about it more and people are really seeking help. And as we mentioned, we specifically work with eating disorders. And so some of the numbers around people who are struggling with eating disorders include 28 million Americans will battle an eating disorder at some point in their lifetime, and millions more will suffer from poor body image and disordered eating, which includes things like dieting, calorie counting, over exercising. And so there are millions of people across our nation struggling with this, and yet less than 70% of people are getting the help that they need due to cost, due to stigma. And so at Rock Recovery, our services are provided in order to remove those barriers and to get more people connected to care. So we're going to talk today a little bit about, we're going to talk about body image, we're going to talk about disordered eating, and we're going to talk about why this drastic change with mental health as well. So thinking about that, looking at life prior to 2020, of course, we all know that things looked a lot different. And so while mental health was something that was talked about a little bit, there was a little bit more balance in our life prior to 2020. So we were seeing, you maybe had work life in one bucket, then you had your home life in a separate bucket, and then you had that bucket of well-being and self-care where you were spending weekends being able to connect with friends and family, to do some of your favorite things. And so while these circles aren't completely balanced, there's some balance there. And then 2020 hit and life looked drastically different. And so now our new normal is that work life and home life just completely meshes together. And then we've got so much going on, so many things running through our heads. We're trying to navigate working from home, or maybe you have a hybrid experience, or maybe you're going into the office full time. And then you've got the kids going to school and trying to figure out, are they home today? Are they in school today? So there's a lot, and there's a lot that now blends together in our lives. And then over off in that itty bitty corner, there's that tiny bit of self-care that every once in a while, when we remember, it's like, oh, maybe when was the last time that I hopped in the shower? Or when was the last time that I got 20 minutes to do a gentle movement session, or to chat with a friend and it wasn't through a screen. So self-care and just being able to nurture our minds and nurture our bodies, it's really, really changed in the last couple of years, which is leading to these alarming numbers that we're seeing with mental health. And so Chrissy's going to talk a little bit today about how we can recreate that balance in our lives and find ways to nourish our bodies and nourish our minds and prioritize our mental health.
All right. So I think mindfulness is actually the thing I'm potentially the worst at, but here I am teaching you guys how to do it. So just some proof that you don't have to be experts at things to try to engage in them. But thanks again for having us. I have been with Rock for almost 10 years, and we just love this work that we get to do. And I'm personally recovered from an eating disorder and just very passionate about mental health and wellness generally. So I'm so proud of you guys for making time during the middle of your busy day to come and invest in yourself and take a few minutes for your own self-care. So let's do some breathing together. It can be really easy to get on autopilot and just sort of go, go, go mode. I feel like we talk about my 6-year-old niece, how she has like 2 speeds, like hyperdrive and off. And I feel like sometimes I have those 2 speeds where I'm either like frantic and spazzy or just like watching Netflix and watching TV shows that were probably made for teenagers just to kind of give my brain a bit of a break and escape from reality. But we want to be able to live really in this middle place and have more groundedness and being more present and having a little bit more balance in our daily and day-to-day activities and lives and work and all the circles that Kristen was talking about. And breathing and awareness and mindfulness can be hugely helpful skills and tools that we can build to just help us along that journey. So I often realize in the middle of my day that I am not breathing, that I'm not paying attention to things, and that I'm totally kind of out of touch with my body. So right now I'm going to give you guys a chance just to kind of do some breathing exercises with me. I'm going to practice what I preach and uncross my legs and put my feet on the ground. So the idea is being grounded. So put your feet on the ground with me. Gonna get comfortable. I hope some of you are also secretly wearing like workout pants underneath professional clothes. So get as comfortable as you possibly can and just kind of step out of your day-to-day autopilot and become aware. Start to kind of realize, how am I feeling? How does my body feel? Where am I holding tension? Maybe you can roll out your shoulders a little bit and start to kind of just notice what's going on in your body. And then I want you to become aware of your breathing. And I'm going to somewhat awkwardly lead us in a deep breathing exercise for 8 breaths. So I'll try to talk and breathe at the same time. And I want you just to kind of become aware of your breathing. So often we're kind of doing shallow breathing, but instead of just breathing into your chest, try to breathe into your stomach. So as you take a deep breath, try to fill up your rib cage, have your stomach expand and feel your chest expand. And then you'll kind of breathe out with me. And you can breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, or in through your mouth, out through your mouth. I'm not terribly picky about which one you want to do, but I'll do a little combination of both. I'm 6 months pregnant, so I feel like breathing is actually somewhat hard for me right now. So I might take advantage of the nose and the mouth situation for breathing, but we'll just do some breathing together for about 8 or 10 deep breaths. So as your feet are on the ground, you can shut your eyes. I'll shut mine too, and just kind of pay attention to your breathing. So I'll count us out. So 1, 2, 3, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, breathe out. 1, 2, 3, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, breathe out. 1, 2, 3, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, breathe out. 1, 2, 3, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, breathe out. 1, 2, 3, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, breathe out. 1, 2, 3, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, breathe out. 1, 2, 3, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, breathe out. Last time. 1, 2, 3, breathe in. And 1, 2, 3, breathe out. So the idea is that this kind of helps get us grounded, helps us feel more aware and present, and helps to expand our awareness to what's happening around us. There's also a tool you can use when you get anxious called box breathing, which I think is breathing in for 5 counts, holding your breath for 5 counts, exhaling for 5 counts, and then holding that breath for 5 counts. But I just can't do that at the same time and talk to you guys. So that's just a box breathing exercise. You can Google box breathing if you ever have that to help with some anxiety, but just breathing can be so helpful to kind of ground us. All right, so I'll cover 3 keys to building a balanced life. So the first one, we do live in DC, and so I feel like there are a lot of perfectionistic type A people among us. Not all. I feel like you can't always assume that everyone has this proclivity, but I certainly have this proclivity. And I know perfectionism is often something that keeps me sort of trapped or makes me very distracted. And I love this quote, "Don't let perfect be the enemy of good." Our founder of Rock Recovery, Carrie Larson, always talks about, let good enough be good enough. And that's something that she's really trained me in and that I still fight her on many days. But I just love that idea of don't let perfection kind of keep you from doing really good things, because we don't have to be perfect. It's impossible for us to be perfect all of the time. And this is especially true with eating and exercise. So like I mentioned, I'm recovered from an eating disorder. And for my brain and my biology and kind of my proclivities, I can be very all or nothing. And I can find a lot of joy and peace in doing things the right way. So like I'm kind of a rule follower, and so Kristen knows this, unless I don't agree with the rule, then I often don't follow it. But I generally am a rule follower most of the time. And so for me and my brain, it can be really tempting to kind of click into like, oh, let's do this extreme thing. Let's like cut out this thing or be really disciplined about this. And so with my eating disorder, that was kind of how it started. It started as a diet and then kind of spiraled into, well, I can just cut out this one more thing and I can just do this one more thing. Let me make it even more perfect. But as I was what I thought I was doing is making something perfect. I was actually making my life smaller and smaller and smaller and really restricting my world more and more and more. So the idea is don't be a perfectionist with your eating and exercise. Have some flexibility. You want to have a full life. You want to be able to say, you know what, I want to work out and take care of my body, but my friend I haven't seen in 6 months just called and asked if I wanted to go get dinner, and I'm going to go see them instead. Because we are whole people, we're biopsychosocial creatures, and we really need these connectivity points with people that we love, and we need some kind of nurture and connection as well. So remember, don't be a purist, don't be too strict, have some flexibility with how you eat, how you exercise, and sort of how you live your life. Since it is January, we love talking about resolutions and all the things that happen in January. And it can be great to sort of feel that blank slate, that newness. I love me a new journal, love me a new start to a season. And yet we don't need to kind of try to overnight fix ourselves, reinvent ourselves. It's not really a new year, new us. It's like pretty much the same us, but maybe some improvements and some really great things we can be intentional about. But we don't want to buy into fad diets or quick fixes or these things that promise us all of these great results, but in the end always disappoint and make it harder for us in the end. So don't buy into fad diets, weight loss trends, or other societal pressures or standards. And one thing about diets is diets don't work. We might talk about this later, but the majority of diets, well over 90%, even if you lose weight, you normally gain it back and then some. And so we just don't believe in this idea at Rock of restriction and dieting. We believe in living whole lives and finding health and balance and moderation. So just try to include that in both how you eat and also how you move your body and how you live. And just remember that perfection is not sustainable. So respecting your own limits. You can't pour from an empty cup. I mentioned I'm pregnant. I was like, I've never felt so inefficient in my life. I keep forgetting things. It's very upsetting to me. I guess pregnancy brain is very real. And I've had to kind of slow down, which has been hard for me. And it's made me really think about my own identity and the places where I make myself, places where I find my own value and worth and the things that I do to make myself feel safe or like I'm achieving or whatever the thing is that I'm trying to accomplish in a day. But I'm beginning to realize, I have limits, and these limits for me have changed in this season. I need more sleep. I need to eat differently. I need to take care of myself differently. I have to go to the doctor every like 3 seconds, it feels like, for various checkups. And these are just things that I need to do. So in this season, I'm having to kind of tighten up some things and lessen some things because there's different demands on me. And the same thing's true with COVID. The same thing might be true with you, depending on what season of life you're in, what's happening in your family, in your work world. There are seasons. We can't just be running at 99% every day all the time, which is really hard for me to believe. And I feel like a bad person for saying that, but I have to remind myself, what my therapist tells me is that like, you are not an unlimited resource. Like, you have to build margin into your life. You have to take care of yourself. You have to have this balance. So just make sure that you're building in time to rest and recharge. That can be very annoying advice when I know you have very real demands on your time and your body and your finances and all the things that you're working through. But sometimes I think we can let our days get away from us and not prioritize what's important to us and sort of just let things spiral. So as much as you can, and you do have control, try to build in some time for yourself by asking family and friends for help, by being intentional about your schedule and literally blocking off time on your calendar, sometimes for self-care or for breathing, or to watch the Vampire Diaries, which is what I personally recommend you do for an hour at times. It really brings me a lot of joy. I mentioned I like teenage television. That's right. So just kind of remember to block some time off for things that do bring you joy and know that you have limits. And then just be mindful of your body's needs. You know, we see this with our clients a lot with food. Sometimes you're not eating enough, and that's actually why you're not feeling well. So making sure that you are fueling your body adequately and appropriately, that you're getting a good balance of different types of foods, you know, fruits and vegetables and lean meats and all the things, but also like have some cupcakes, you know, live your life, like have some things that you enjoy. Our bodies actually do need some sugar, and that can bring a lot of energy to our bodies. So just kind of paying attention to get good balanced nutrition, and also not to be a purist about it, like I mentioned before. So finding what works for you. Comparison is the thief of joy, but man, do I love comparing myself to people. What a healthy approach. But it can be hard to know, you know, it can be really easy actually to look at people and be like, I should be more like them, or why can't I do it more like this? Or why, like, look how they have it together. And of course, we never know what's actually going on in someone's life or inner world. Often we do see the highlight reels and the things that they share, and that can be really tough, but really just kind of stay true to what you need and to what you need in this current season of life, what your body needs, what your family needs, which is whatever you need, and try not to look to the right or the left and compare yourself to other people. It's okay if this changes too, season to season, but just sometimes just the pressure of not being enough can be really tough. I feel like I see this in people all the time. You know, I feel like women in a lot of ways have had these unrealistic beauty standards. Now men, people of all genders, have unrealistic beauty standards kind of pressed on them. Like now no one's safe, unfortunately. This is also true, I feel like, for moms. Like the mom, this is my first baby, but like the mom guilt, you know, you feel like you should be able to do more. You should have it all together. Why can't you be perfect? Or at work, like, why can't I basically be this machine? There are just so many things that we can put pressure on ourselves for, and it's just unfortunately unsustainable and just not really helpful to think about these things. So try to not let unrealistic expectations kind of bleed into your life and your brain and have you feel less than. And then we're big believers at Rock Recovery of health at every size, haze to those in the know, is what we call it. But just the idea of, you know, not any body could be healthy at any size. Like I couldn't suddenly grow 7 inches or like change my weight dramatically and be healthy. However, we're all kind of predetermined and disposed to weigh a certain amount, like to have a certain shoe size, to have a certain height. And so if we're actually paying attention, you know, not all bodies are going to be the same size. Not all bodies are going to have the same thing. BMI, you know, body mass index is actually something that's really been kind of debunked over the years because there's so many things to take into consideration with someone's body. Their genetics, their background, their race, their age, their like muscle mass, their bone density. I mean, there's so many things that we can't just say, this is the weight, this is the height, this is what someone should be. So we believe that all bodies are good bodies and that you need to just really focus on taking care of your health overall, body, mind, and spirit, and then the rest will work itself out.
Thanks, Christy. I love getting those reminders because even though I work in this field and have these conversations every day, it's still nice to to hear those things and to think about, like, what am I doing to care for myself? So again, just to reiterate those 3 tips, Christy talked about letting go of perfectionism, about setting limitations, and honoring your boundaries, which is something that we'll get into a little bit later. And just understanding what your body needs and really listening to what your body needs and practicing some of that mindfulness. And so looking at that, how do we then take that into building a healthy self-image, and how do we take that into account with nourishing our physical bodies? So that's what I'm going to dive into a little bit now. And so the first thing is just being observant, not judging yourself. And so when you think about body image, when you think about how your body may have changed over the last couple of years, or how your body may have changed over the last 10 years, we look different at different stages of our lives. And so sometimes it can be helpful to think about, okay, if I weren't thinking about my body, if I were thinking about a friend's body, would I be having those negative thoughts? Or would I focus on and highlight the things that I love about this person, that I love about this friend? And so being observant of what your body's going through, being gracious and kind to your body, and just staying away from putting judgments on your body. Not like Christy mentioned, comparison is the thief of joy. So moving away from that comparison, distancing yourself from those negative thoughts, and focusing on honoring and celebrating the things that your body is able to do and the things that you do like about your body, is a great start to really building that strong foundation of a healthy self-image. The second thing is building a wide base. So not narrowing yourself to those certain standards that you believe that you're expected to follow, or the images that you might see across social media, or the images that we see on TV and just in the media in general. But building a wide base and understanding that your body is created to be unique, and taking time to reflect on not just the physical, but also your personal values, your personal strengths, and the things that you can really appreciate. And then the last thing is just being kind to yourself. It's so easy to be unkind to ourselves. And Christy talked about this a little bit with going into, why can't, with that perfectionism piece, why can't I go to work and be a machine? Why can't I then come home and be a machine at home? Why, can I get through? I have a list of 20 things on my to-do list. Why can I only get through 5 a day? And so finding the space to create empathy, the same empathy that I'm sure you often show to others, and turning that back on yourself, practicing being kinder to yourself, practicing rephrasing the way that you're speaking to yourself, and just understanding that your experience is not to be compared to anybody else's experience, and just giving yourself grace in that way. And again, thinking about, like, how would you talk to a friend if you had a friend who was coming to you with some of the things that you were struggling with, or some of the issues that you were having a hard time processing, or the insecurities? How would you talk to them about that? And maybe write that down, maybe write those kind thoughts down, as something to reflect on in the future. But just understanding that bodies were created to be unique, and they were designed to change, and that's okay. And so finding ways to give yourself grace in those moments. And then the other thing Christy talked about when it comes to building a self-image and focusing on nourishing your body in the physical sense, we talked a little bit about health at every size, and about all foods fit. And so along with that is intuitive eating, which might be a phrase that you're familiar with. It's something that started to gain quite a bit of popularity in the last 2 or 3 years. But intuitive eating is this idea of really trusting your body. And it's that idea that if you listen to your body's signals, listen to your body's cues, and nourish your body in the way that it's giving you guidance on, your body will find its balance to where you're naturally supposed to be. And so with this comes the idea that, like you said, it's okay to eat the cupcake every once in a while. Or if you're having the French fries, instead of thinking, no, I'm not going to eat the French fries, I'm not going to eat the French fries, you allow yourself to eat the French fries and then you move on. And for the next meal, you're likely not going to want French fries because you listened to what your body was telling you that you were craving and fed yourself in that way. And so some tips that kind of go along with intuitive eating and that can be helpful to remember are rejecting the diet mentality. So not restricting your foods or not labeling foods as good or bad, or telling yourself, only allotting yourself a certain portion of what you're allowed to eat on given days. Honoring your hunger. So listening to when your body's telling you that it's hungry and nourishing it. Making peace with food, which again just goes along with not labeling foods as good or bad. Challenging the food police. So that signal in your head that says, oh, I'm not supposed to eat this, or I had this for breakfast, so I shouldn't have this for lunch. Really challenging those thoughts and just listening to and trusting what your body is telling you that it needs in that moment. In the same way that you honor your hunger, respecting your fullness. So listening to when your body is telling you that you're full, and either leaving the rest as leftovers, or putting it away until your body's telling you that you're hungry again. Discovering the satisfaction factor. And so that kind of ties into not just experiencing food as feeding your body physically, but feeding your body emotionally. So often meal times are tied to these emotional experiences, like having lunch with a friend, or having birthday cake or wedding cake. And food comes with these beautiful memories and these beautiful experiences. And so discovering that part of food and having it not just be a physical experience, but a social and emotional experience as well. Honoring your feelings without food. So understanding that food is not something that should always be a coping mechanism for you. And then finding different ways to honor when you're struggling with difficult feelings. And so that could be talking to a trusted friend, or taking some time to journal, or going on a short walk, but finding different things that help you process difficult experiences without always turning to food. Respecting your body. And so this is what we've been talking about this entire time, is just finding ways to honor and respect your body's needs. Exercise and feeling the difference. And so with that, this is not the idea of using exercise as punishment or a way to compensate for a certain meal that you feel like you shouldn't have eaten, but using exercise as joyful movement. We love moving our bodies and honoring what our bodies can do. And so using exercise to celebrate your body's strength, and just finding what you really enjoy and what really works for you. I myself, I love kickboxing. I've been doing kickboxing for years. It makes me feel powerful. It's fun. And so when I have a desire to move my body, I'm likely not going to run because I don't enjoy running. It's not fun for me. It's just not a good experience. But I'll do a 30-minute kickboxing session because it makes me feel good, not just physically, but emotionally as well. And then the last thing, just honoring your health. So again, just understanding what your body needs, what your body's telling you feels good, and what your body's telling you doesn't feel good, and just honoring your health in that way. And then again, just to reiterate this idea of all foods fit and give you kind of a description of what that could look like. So with all foods fit, we're not labeling foods as good or bad, but it's very much what it sounds like, having all foods fit into a healthy diet. And so on one side, you see we have the French fries and the cupcake and the cheeseburger, which are all foods that we enjoy and can love to integrate into our diet, but eating all of those things all the time is not good for us. In the same way, on the opposite end, we have the carrots and the apple and the salad and the grapes. Again, foods that we enjoy, but just eating these foods at all times is not good, and it doesn't create balance. What does create balance is blending all those things together. And so we have the salad and the cupcake and the avocado and the cheeseburger and the cheese. And so living a life that where food is able to be celebrated, and we're able to enjoy different things and really nourish our bodies in different ways. That means you're getting the carbs, the sugar that your body needs, the fats, the protein, the vegetables, all of those things. You're fueling your body with that, and it's giving you energy in different ways for different experiences. And so this is really a good visualization of what that all foods fit looks like.
All right. Thanks, Kristen. So we've talked, we have to talk about the practical sides of things like nutrition and food. And Kristen did a great job kind of explaining that. I'm not sure how many of you all are familiar with intuitive eating, but I know when I went through recovery, it was totally a brand new concept for me. And I remember sitting in my therapist's office crying, being like, literal 3-year-olds are better at eating than me. Why is this so hard? Why is this so confusing? How did I get so far gone? And just because so often in the world, we're listening to external factors and not listening to our bodies. So what we really encourage you all to do is just to really get back to that natural intuition, which can be hard to retrain when we maybe have restricted or binged or had other kinds of behaviors that maybe aren't the healthiest for us around food or exercise. So it can be tough, but it can be done to kind of regain that equilibrium and really listen to our bodies and do what is best and take care of them. And like I mentioned earlier too, our health is definitely about what we eat and how we move, but it's also about other pieces as well. Our mental health, our physical health, our social health. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of these 5-year journals that you can do where it's like 5 lines a day for 5 years in the journal. And I'm on my 5th year. And I was just looking through back to January 2020 the other day. I was back on my January journal and I was looking, at the years prior. And I was just like, I miss my life. Like I totally miss my life. And it made me really realize I was so much more social. And of course, there are limitations to that. Although things are often more open and there are ways to safely engage with one another. It feels harder to schedule social outings. I know for myself, I feel like I've had to really be extra intentional, either schedule things, think about things differently. But I realized, wow, I haven't been putting enough energy into my social health. I've been spending a lot of time on my physical health and my mental health and my spiritual health even, but I haven't been thinking about my social health. So just kind of remembering, we are full, complex little people, and it's good to pay attention to all these pieces. Sleep can be a huge part of this, just our bodies in general, but we shouldn't just be focusing on, numbers like on a scale or calories. Like that is such a small arbitrary part of our overall health. Unfortunately, it's way more complicated than that. And we have to get a little deeper than just those numbers that might be tempting to focus on. So additionally, it can also be tough to take care of ourselves and to kind of, the whole oxygen mask principle you hear on airplanes, if you've been on an airplane recently, but the idea of, you put on your oxygen mask before you care for other people. And that can be hard when we're caretakers for other people in our lives, but it's really important to take care of ourselves. And again, I know it's a luxury. I know it's a privilege. I know there are certain things that make it really hard if you're working multiple jobs or have lots going on, but whatever little things you can do to carve out just some time, energy, or care for yourself is so, so important to do. And as I started with, letting go of perfectionism might be a way for you to kind of have some self-care, just being kind to yourself, giving yourself some grace, letting yourself be imperfect. Letting the dishes sit in the sink. Oh my God, letting the dishes in the sink. It's so horrible. I can't do it overnight, but maybe one day I will. So it's good just to kind of let yourself just have some space when you need it. And then really finding what works for you and being kind of ruthless to it, really scheduling the self-care. Like you might schedule your work meetings, putting in that extra half hour, and making sure you're prioritizing these things for yourself. And also setting boundaries. I feel like we see this with our clients a lot. And I know with myself, it can be really easy to be rigid about boundaries and to kind of go from being a people pleaser and saying yes to everything and doing all the things to being like, no is my boundary. I can't do any of that ever again. Don't speak to me. And that's not necessarily a boundary, but there are good ways to build good, healthy boundaries that do honor you and honor the people who might be making requests of you and just kind of honor the overall situation. But just kind of noticing, letting your yes be your yes and your no be your no, paying attention to what you're saying yes to, what you're saying no to. And if you start to feel resentful or you start to feel overworked or overtaxed, setting some boundaries, asking for support, asking for help, just really being true to that, because at the end of the day, no one's going to do these things for you. And so we do have to really self-advocate for ourselves. And remembering that healthy starts with honoring our bodies and our limits and all of these things that come with it. So just kind of thinking through how to take care of yourself. I mentioned sleep earlier, all these different things you can do, kind of putting in time for play. I'm like not the most, I mean, I think I'm kind of fun, but I'm not, I don't know. I feel like it's hard for me to remember to leave leisure time for play and things that feel frivolous because I just love a to-do list so much. But healthy might be like going for a slow walk or like playing a board game or doing something like that, but just really paying attention to how you can honor your body and your needs and your limits and just your need for rest too along the way. So we can't ever talk to a crowd without talking about our incredible clients. I know Mary Claire and Kristen talked a bit about what we do, but our clients are the best. I'm like mildly biased, but unfortunately, because of things like HIPAA, you won't get to know our clients like we have here at Rock. But we just have the joy of serving these incredible people and seeing people really just take bold steps and brave steps to care for themselves and just to regain some freedom in their lives. And it's such a joy to get to see. And we're grateful for the bid support over the years of our programs and helping us do this. But we do offer all of our programs on a sliding scale since we're a nonprofit, so cost is never a barrier. And unfortunately, it can be tough to get mental health coverage and treatment because broken systems like insurance and the cost can be so tough. But the beautiful thing that we've really seen is with proper treatment and support, people can get better from eating disorders and mental health challenges. There can really be this freedom and health, even in the midst of life's challenges and struggles. And there is no shame in struggling with anxiety, depression, and eating disorder, bipolar, anything. There's no shame at all, but there is greater freedom and greater health to be had. And so we just really encourage anyone to reach out for support who might use some extra support, or encourage the people in your life who might need a little support as well. But here's a quote from one of our clients. Rock was such an amazing experience and was truly one of the keys to my recovery. Now I enjoy all my favorite foods, pizza, pasta, bread, and desserts without an ounce of guilt or sadness after. I'm present during meals and I can enjoy conversations without being completely consumed in my eating disorder. And if any of you have struggled with eating disorders or disordered eating, because it can definitely be a range like I have, you just know what a joy it is to kind of be able to have these experiences again that so often our clients don't think they'll ever get back. So thanks for being a part of this work with us and for coming to get educated today and for working on your own health and wellness. We're really, really grateful for that. All right, and we'll be passing it along for questions. So we were pretty good on time. I'm proud of us, Kristen. I got a little passionate there and thought I was going to go off the rails for a minute, but I kind of pulled it back together. So we're going to have some questions. Kristen, do you want to moderate these? Sorry, I think that was your official job. I think it's my turn to pass it back to you.
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
Okay, great.
And I was very proud of us too. Look at us go. Yes, and just as a reminder, you can feel free to either drop your questions to hosts and panelists in the chat or drop them in the Q&A, and we can answer them that way. So the first question is, what are some tips for maintaining moderation in our lives? It feels like it's always either too much or too little. So kind of like we were talking about, with just like finding that balance and finding what works for you.
Do you want me to answer this? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I was like, what do you think? I don't tell me everything. I would say, gosh, I mean, it's individual. It's so hard to know this. So I think tips is paying attention. One of my old roommates who I really adore, we're very different personalities, but this advice worked for both of us. She always said to think about busyness as a speed limit. Like you don't want to go too fast. You don't want to go too slow. And again, as a rigid black or white, like all or nothing thinker, I'm like, that's a lame answer. But it does kind of help you to think about, okay, am I feeling frantic? Like if so, I'm probably speeding a little bit. Am I feeling like maybe a little bit isolated or depressed or withdrawn? Maybe I need to pull it together. And I've had friends over the years. I am definitely a more social creature. I thought I was an introvert and then COVID happened and I was like, oh, that was cute. I'm definitely more of an extrovert than an introvert. But for some people who might be more introverted or who might struggle towards depression, they might need to speed up that speed limit and make sure they're scheduling a few more things on their calendar, that they have checkpoints, that they have things in place that will kind of help them stay connected to people and to kind of stay engaged. And for someone who might be kind of like myself, more anxious or like more overscheduled, it might be good to literally schedule time to do nothing and to block off times on our calendars to really make space. So it really depends on personality, preference, seasons, but just that intentionality and thinking of it as a speed limit and kind of thinking, would I get pulled over right now for going too slow or too fast? Like, cool, let's try to put this in place.
Yeah, I really like that. And there's like constantly, I think there's constantly too that back and forth with like the attachment to your phone and attachment to technology. But I will say with the past couple of years, like scheduling things in my phone has completely changed my life, including having a set time where my phone automatically turns off and I just don't get phone calls and text messages and those notifications after a certain time. So the value of scheduling has become very apparent in the last couple of years. Okay, so another question we have is, um, so oftentimes we have people in our lives who can be well-intentioned, but may make comments about our bodies and may make comments about the food that we're eating and how we're eating and what we're eating. And so how do we deal with moments where we feel that judgment coming, not necessarily internally, but externally, and we have people making comments about weight and how we're eating and things like that? How do we navigate those experiences?
That's a tough one. This was hard for me in recovery, especially since as I started to kind of go through the physical active recovery and kind of change how I was eating, my body initially changed, and eventually, my weight kind of balanced out, as many people's does, as you find that set point for your own body. But I remember kind of either getting comments, like when I was really sick and unwell, people would comment that I looked great. And I was like, I hate my life right now. And you think I look great. Like, that's a really tough place to be. Or as I started to gain weight, I didn't get the compliments, but I felt like I got the looks, or people made comments. And I was like, I'm actually healthier and happier. And here I am getting kind of dinged for it. And it was really, really, really hard for me. And my therapist at the time was like, you have to kind of take a step back and think about, you like me, I started to pull myself out of the culture. I started to like kind of notice the diet culture we're in, where thinness is prized above all else, even if it's unhealthy. And I kind of started to notice like, no body should be better if they're this size versus this size. Like, I had kind of started to think critically, and like, I was no longer swimming in that stream. But she was like, so many people are swimming in that stream because it's what we've been given for so long, and they haven't really had a chance to think critically about it or reject it or kind of do their own work around it. So she was kind of like, just know you know better. Like, and that sounds like so bad and prideful, but she was like, listen, everyone's on their own journeys. You're in a better place. You're further along. They're not. Just try to give them some grace in the moment and realize, like, just because they say that, or you read this magazine article or you do this thing, like, doesn't mean someone actually knows more than you. They're an expert. Like, trust your own wisdom in this and trust your own truth in this. And then also boundaries. For me, when I went through recovery, I definitely had some friends that I feel like I knew would make comments, or some friends that I knew had their own issues and like were hard to eat lunch with, because I'm like, they're not really eating, or they're like making comments about their food or my food, or they're like, I'm feeling their anxiety because they're stressed about it. And it's hard for me to kind of keep myself calm. So I really made boundaries around who I hung out with and when. So if I had friends that maybe were triggering to me and might make those comments or might say things or cause me to compare or do whatever, or be like, oh, really, you're eating that? I wouldn't have lunch with them. I would go for walks with them. I would meet them in other places. I'd get coffee with them. But I kind of like made some boundaries and was like, listen, I'm going to cut that out of my life for right now. And now, many years into recovery, I don't need to do that necessarily anymore. I feel very like solid and like I can handle whatever people say to me. But if you're in a season where you're feeling a bit more vulnerable or getting this muscle memory, like, it's okay to have these boundaries and to kind of do what you need to do in those areas. And it's okay to say, like, now that I'm pregnant, I'm a touchy person. I don't really get offended when people touch me, but I'm like, people feel like they can comment on your body all of a sudden. Like, even my husband last night was like, you're a lot bigger than her. And he's like, oh wait, am I allowed to say that? And I'm like, luckily, yes, but careful, because like that can be really offensive. But if someone makes a comment you're uncomfortable with, be like, listen, like, I know you didn't mean much by that, but that's really hard for me to hear. And I like would need you to respect my boundaries and like not comment on my body or not comment on my weight. Like, I don't think that's helpful or kind. And I just really need some space around that. And I just don't want to hear that from you, basically.
Yeah. Great. We have lots of questions rolling in now. So the next question, and I'm happy to take this one. I feel like I've been working on this a lot, is what are some tips on trying to shut off your brain when going to bed and trying to fall asleep? And I am definitely one of those people where it's like the minute I try to wind down, that's when all the wheels want to start turning. And so I think what has been really helpful, and what can be really helpful is one, kind of what we discussed with that listening to your body, figuring out what are those things that are keeping you up at night. Is it being on your phone? Is it stimulation from watching TV right up until the point that you're trying to fall asleep? So kind of maybe spend the next couple of days just being aware of what your nighttime routine looks like and think about what are those things that are keeping your wheels turning at night. And then play the elimination game and see how, as you start removing those things, what is making it easier for you to fall asleep. And so if your phone is an issue, and chances are, if you're on your phone up until you're falling asleep, it's probably that is probably making it a little bit difficult. There is research about how having our face in our phone or on our iPad or being on our computer, having the stimulation of that technology can make it really difficult to fall asleep. So maybe setting an alarm in 30 minutes from bed, you shut things off, or finding that feature on your phone where you can have your phone automatically have its own bedtime at a certain point can be really helpful. But I think, like I said, just listening to what your body's telling you when it comes to the things that are keeping your mind turning, and then trying to eliminate those things one by one has been at least really helpful for me. And then maybe finding new things to help slow things down. So Christy mentioned journaling, and she's a big journaler. That can be a really helpful process when it comes to just getting those thoughts that are spinning through your head on how your day went and what's been going through your mind. That can be a really good way to take those thoughts out of your head by when you put them down on paper. Or playing, like, meditating music can be helpful. I know for some people, doing yoga and physically slowing your body down before the end of the day can be helpful. So I think just, again, listening to your body and finding what works for you. With that, Christy, any additional things that you try to do to?
No, that's a good one. I think just the screens and letting your body quiet down.
Yeah.
All
right. Our next question is, and Christy, I think I'll let you take this one. How, if at all, do you and your team of clinicians incorporate hands-on skill building related to cooking wholesome, satisfying food in your practice?
Great question. Yeah, so a lot of our work with our clients is really that intuitive eating work that Krista mentioned. And a big thing is removing the food roles and showing that all foods fit, and just the good that can come from all kinds of things. So we do a lot of what we call food exposures. We actually don't do cooking for lots of reasons, but COVID and then safe serve certification and all kinds of different tricky things. We do a lot of catering for our meals when we're in person. And otherwise, our clients who do meal support groups with us are doing virtual work where they either cook their own meal or cater their, order out from Chipotle or whatever, and then bring it to our group. But we are really helping clients understand the value in all foods. Like, there is potassium in French fries, right? Like, so we're helping people understand there are nutrients in all these foods. And the beauty is, so often when we restrict, for a lot of personalities, for myself included, restriction often kind of predates and kind of predisposes us to binge behavior. So the idea is that if we're letting ourselves experience all these foods, see the value in them, get the nutrition from them, we won't want French fries for every meal. We won't want to eat 18 cupcakes a day. Like, we'll literally crave the salad, and we'll crave the things too. So we're really helping our clients overall be exposed to all of these foods that might be fear foods for them. It might be strange to call a food like a fear food for someone. You're like, an Oreo shouldn't be scary. And yeah, like if someone has a lot of rules in their head and has tried to kind of keep this regime and have these really strict rules on themselves, it can feel very scary to break that. And for a lot of our clients, that's how they find control or peace or whatever the thing may be, is by restricting and saying no to certain things. And our point is that you don't have to restrict to have this balance. Actually, the moderation and the variety is really important. And then as you're just we really try to expose our clients to different kinds of foods. So like, yeah, we'll do sweet green. Yeah, we'll do Chipotle. Like, yeah, we'll do all the different things because they all can really fit. And then that helps our clients understand just that these things are all part of life. And you don't want to miss dinner on Friday with friends who are going to get pizza, because like eating the same food with other people is really good for us socially. It's a huge part of a lot of religious traditions, and it's a huge part of our societal fabric. And so it's something that's really, really good. And then a lot of our clients do individual work, I will say, with therapists and or dietitians on what their bodies specifically need. Because of course there are allergies and things that people need to take in consideration. But generally speaking, with our clients, we have a bit of a different lens where we're helping them trust their bodies again.
Thanks, Chris. We have 5 minutes left and one last question. So it looks like we're really going to be on time today. But I really like this question because it's so relevant to what we're experiencing now. So the question is, as an extrovert, I feel like I've been binging on social interaction between COVID variant shutdowns. Any advice on balancing the need to make up for lost social interaction with continuing self-care? And I can kick things off with that one. So I think that is a great question, and something that we've all been experiencing is we see these things spike, and then when things go down, you feel like you need to, okay, I haven't seen someone for the last 3 months. And so you're trying to get everything in at one time. I think the first thing is, which is probably going to be the hardest thing, is coming to a place of acceptance with where we're at and with what these last couple of years have looked like, and just kind of in the same way that when you eat a certain meal, you can't make up for it by then exercising it off, or you can't say, okay, I eat this and this today, so I won't eat this. Like that's not how it works, and that's not healthy. It's the same thing with our social interactions. We've, getting to a place of understanding that this is what life looks like now. And unfortunately, there may be some things that we miss out on, and there may be some experiences that we have to say no to for our safety, for the safety of others. And so finding that in those seasons when things have gone down, when you feel comfortable going out, allowing yourself to schedule some things, but knowing what your limitations are. So if your limitations are doing something twice a week, then allow yourself to schedule those things twice a week. But don't schedule 5 things a week, because you already know that that's not healthy for you. And it's not going to make you feel recharged. It's not going to make you feel excited. It's not going to give you those warm, fuzzy feelings that you want to get from being social and from spending time with people anyway. It's just going to lead to burnout. And so being able to set those boundaries, and then knowing that another season is going to come where you'll be able to see friends and family safely again, where you'll be able to schedule things on your calendar. But it really is a matter of just honoring those boundaries and then finding other ways. So I know as we're on a Zoom meeting, we're also over Zoom, and we're over, the virtual. I think I saw something on social media the other day that was talking about the spike, and the comment was basically saying, guys, I'm so sorry, but if things spike and we shut down again, I will never join another virtual Zoom party again. And I think so many people feel that way, that it's just the last thing that you want to do. But finding ways to connect with people that do feel safe and that do feel like they restore you a little bit. And so maybe it's on Zoom, maybe it's Zoom that just stresses you out, but maybe you can FaceTime a friend, and you can FaceTime one person at a time instead of joining a Zoom party, and that feels okay. Or I know like Netflix and some other places, they let you do like virtual watch parties. And so just there are other finding other things that you can do that still give you that that feeling of connecting with other people and get you out of that place where you're feeling sad or isolated or lonely, because that's important for health too. But that also, again, just don't make you feel burnt out or don't make you feel overstretched. Again, just using that schedule, using your calendar, and just accepting that this is the life that we're in right now, but it won't be like that forever. It won't be like that forever. Um, so yeah.
From your lips, let's just hope that that is the case. Wow, ladies, this was amazing. I love the term seasons. It really is a good reminder that there's a time and place for everything, and we have to kind of just become a little more in tune with our bodies and our minds to be able to kind of know and sense what season we're in. I've been feeling a bit of a funk here lately, and I think it's because it's the middle of winter. It's freezing cold. We haven't been able to get out and do the things that, like the previous person talked about being an extrovert. That's me. So it's been really hard, kind of being in lockdown, so to speak. So just really appreciate you ladies sharing these tips. Really helpful. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who joined us. It was great to, although we didn't get to see you all, it was great to spend time with you. And now I'm going to go eat lunch, and I might just have to add, there's some sourdough bread upstairs that I've been like not eating, and I think I'm going to go have a piece of that right now. So thank you to everyone. Christy, Kristen, as always, just great advice. If anyone wants to chat further with these two ladies, I know that they would welcome that. They've got some great services too, if you're feeling a need to want to engage in that as well. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Here's to a great start to a new year, hopefully finding balance and health.